The circle alignment emanating from Algiers, Algeria, enters North America in Louisiana after it crosses over the Gulf of Mexico from Merida, Mexico. It continues through the heart of the Empire Washitaw, also known as the Ancient Ones, and the Mound Builders in Louisiana and Arkansas, and on through the state of Missouri, passing directly through Springfield. My name is Michelle Gibson. Next, the alignment passes through Des Moines, the capital and largest city of Iowa. It was incorporated in 1851 as Fort Des Moines. The story we are told about the fort itself is that it was built by the Army in 1843. Check out that magnetism pattern showing up in the bricks. The stated reason for having a fort in Des Moines was to control the Sauk, an Algonquin language-speaking people of the Green Bay, Wisconsin area, and the Meskwaki, closely related to the Sauk, also known as the Fox, and also Algonquin language speakers. Their homelands were in the Great Lakes region. Both the Sauk and Meskwaki had been relocated from their homelands to eastern Iowa. The fort was said to have been built where the Raccoon River and Des Moines River meet on the top left, which has the same appearance as where the Mississippi River and Missouri River meet near St. Louis in Missouri on the right, and where the Blue Nile and White Nile meet at Khartoum in the Sudan on the bottom left. With striking similarities such as these, I am thinking all of these river systems, and a high likelihood that all river systems, are actually man-made systems. I did a search for Des Moines Canal System to see what popped up, and I found the Des Moines Rapids Canal in Keokuk, Iowa, southeast of Des Moines. This canal is located on the Mississippi River, which serves as Iowa's shared border with Illinois. The construction of the 12-mile-long Des Moines Rapids Canal was said to have been started in 1866, just 1 year after the end of the American Civil War, and completed in 1877. Then it is said to have been in use for only 36 years, closing in 1913. Does any of this make sense with the amount of effort and expertise that would be needed to construct a massive engineering project like what is pictured here, and right after the Civil War? Fort Madison, Iowa is just a short distance up the Mississippi River from Keokuk. Here is a historic bank building in Fort Madison on the top, compared with a historic building in Kherson, a city in the Ukraine, on the bottom. And this wall of the Iowa State Penitentiary at Fort Madison on the top, compared with this wall of the Cardiff Castle in Wales on the bottom. This is said to be the original fortification on the grounds of Cardiff Castle, which is said to have been built in the late 11th century after the Norman conquest in 1066. It is what is called a Motte and Bailey castle, but looks suspiciously like a mound to me. As a comparison, this is Silbury Hill, called a prehistoric artificial chalk hill in Wiltshire. It is part of a complex of Neolithic monuments and located a short driving distance from the Avebury Stone Circle. It is considered to be the largest man-made structure in Europe, believed to date back to 2400 BC. It is a popular place for crop circles and other geometric shapes to appear in the crops. Back to Des Moines. This is a historic photo of the Des Moines Post Office circa 1850. A mere 21 years later, in 1871, according to what we are told, this U.S. Circuit Court building was already in operation. So how did we go from a relatively crude wooden structure like the post office to this gigantic building, and only 6 years after the end of the American Civil War? Same thing with the amazingly ornate and huge Iowa State Capitol building, said to have been built between 1871 and 1886, in stark contrast to the much smaller wooden structures in the foreground. How did we go from point A to point Z in less than 40 years, according to the history we've been taught? Immediately upon leaving Des Moines, the alignment passes through Ames, where the flagship campus of Iowa State University is located. This is the massive Beardshire Hall, an administrative building on the campus said to have been built in 1906. Again, we are taught by historical omission not to question what it would have taken to build something like this during the time we are told it was, and to just trust that the information is factual and correct. Nothing to see here, right? The next major city on the alignment is Rochester, Minnesota, founded in 1854, and the county seat of Olmsted County. It is the third largest city in Minnesota and situated on the Zumbro River, on another snaky as shaped river bend. The prestigious Mayo Clinic is in Rochester. This is a close-up of the tower of the Mayo Clinic's Plummer Building, said to have opened in 1928, and is a National Historic Landmark. Here's a view of the Plummer Building from a different angle on the left, compared with the Giralda Bell Tower in Seville, Spain in the middle, and the Moorish Tower in San Martin, Teruel, Spain. From Rochester, the alignment crosses through Menominee, the county seat of Dunn County in the western part of Wisconsin. The Menominee Nation of Wisconsin, an Algonquin-speaking people, is the only one in Wisconsin whose origin story says they have always lived in Wisconsin. Their ancestral lands also include the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The Menominee Nation lost federal recognition in the 1960s, we are told due to a policy of assimilation, but they had federal recognition restored by an act of Congress in 1972. We are taught that the indigenous people of this land were uncivilized tribes of hunter-gatherers. This is a painting by an artist named Paul Kane, who died in 1871, called Fishing by Torchlight, of the Menominee spearfishing at night by torchlight and canoe on the Fox River. So let's take a look at the architecture of this city with the name of Menominee. Who were they really? This is the Mabel Tainter Memorial Theater in Menominee, Wisconsin, said to have been built in 1889 by Andrew and Bertha Tainter as a memorial for their daughter, Mabel, who passed away from a ruptured appendix in 1886. This is what the Mabel Tainter Theater looks like on the inside on the top left and bottom left, compared with the Alhambra in Granada, Spain on the top right and bottom right. This is a tower in the city of Menominee on the left, compared with the Tower of the Signoria in Florence, Italy in the middle, and on the right is the Tower of the Great Mosque of El Obeid in Sudan. I noticed there were cedar trees on the nearby Lake Menomin, just like there were back in Algeria on this circle alignment, like these in Crea National Park in the Atlas Mountains. So I looked up cedars in Wisconsin and immediately found the Red Cedar State Trail in Menominee. It is described as a 15-mile-long trail with a crushed limestone that is smoother than some paved surfaces. When I looked up images, I found this photo with an ancient wall parallel to the trail. We have only been taught to believe that what are called rock formations are natural. More evidence that this is the case is found at the next place in Wisconsin that we come to on the alignment, the Apostle Islands. The Apostle Island National Lakeshore on Lake Superior is comprised of 12 miles of mainland shore and 21 islands. It is described as having spectacular nature-carved rock formations. As well as 8 lighthouses. Here's one example of the lighthouses found here, and another example of one of the lighthouses here. For comparison, there is a place off the shore of Port Campbell in the Victoria State of Australia called the 12 Apostles. They are described to us as a collection of limestone stacks from the Miocene age, which was between 23 and 2.5 million years ago. This is the Cape Otway Lighthouse on the Victoria Coast near the 12 Apostles. It is said to be the oldest remaining lighthouse in Australia. The ancient advanced civilization that has been removed from our collective memory was a maritime civilization of master builders, as comfortable on the water as on land. I'm going to end the video here and pick up the circle alignment in Grand Portage in Minnesota on Lake Superior, near the Canadian border in northwestern Ontario.